Wherever you're watching, welcome to the program. Tensions are rising globally as the White House unveils a sweeping set of new tariff rates targeting dozens of countries that have yet to finalize trade agreements with the United States, signaling a dramatic shift in America's approach to international commerce under President Donald Trump's administration. From soaring duties on key trading partners to rising concerns among U.S. consumers and exporters worldwide, the implications of these decisions are vast and immediate. So don't forget to subscribe to AWA Updates for in-depth coverage on stories that shape our world. The new executive order, issued from the White House, is due to come into effect in just 7 days and outlines a fresh wave of tariffs aimed at compelling foreign governments into trade compliance while protecting American economic interests. Leading the list of impacted countries, Laos now faces an eye-watering 40% tariff, with Switzerland close behind at 39%, raising eyebrows considering its traditionally neutral stance and solid trade ties. Perhaps more shockingly, even America's northern neighbor and longtime ally Canada will now be subjected to a steeper 35% tariff, up from an already significant 25%, marking a potential strain in cross-border relations and economic cooperation. Other countries feeling the heat include India at 25%, Taiwan at 20%, Indonesia at 19%, and Thailand at 19%, underscoring the breadth and intensity of the new measures. While these tariffs are technically paid by importing companies, economists warn that the additional cost will likely trickle down to everyday consumers, inflating prices on everything from electronics and textiles to pharmaceuticals and agricultural products. Despite the backlash, the Trump administration is hailing these tariffs as a strategic victory, pointing to a buoyant stock market and renewed investor confidence as signs of success, even as critics argue the long-term effects could include increased inflation, economic retaliation, and supply chain disruption. Our North America correspondent David Willis noted that Trump's initial announcement back in April, which stirred global controversy, has now morphed into a full-fledged economic policy, with levies ranging from 10% to 50% depending on each country's progress, or lack thereof, in negotiations. The administration touts billions in projected revenue for U.S. Treasury coffers, asserting this as evidence of Trump's prowess as a negotiator. But for millions of American families, the real question is whether the price tags on household goods will rise beyond reach. With just over a dozen countries having reached agreements so far, and only the UK trade deal officially signed, major uncertainties still loom large. Particularly concerning is the status of talks with China, once threatened with a mammoth 145% tariff, but currently in a delicate ceasefire phase, with critical negotiations expected to resume within weeks. In Southeast Asia, Thailand has found itself caught in a particularly vulnerable position, facing a 19% tariff after narrowly avoiding an even harsher 36% rate. Our Bangkok correspondent Jonathan Head has been following the story closely, reporting that manufacturers across Thailand have been scrambling to adjust production and pricing strategies amid growing unease. Thailand, heavily reliant on exports and especially sensitive to U.S. market fluctuations, was slow to start its negotiations, falling behind neighbors like Vietnam, Indonesia, and the Philippines. The delayed response nearly cost Thai exporters their competitive edge, especially in electronics and rubber components, key sectors that now teeter on the edge of profitability. Factories such as SVI Electronics, a major node in the global supply chain, are struggling to map out their futures as robotic production lines churn out goods destined for American shores. With cost margins tighter than ever, the reduced tariff rate offers temporary relief, but uncertainty continues to dominate. In one factory producing simple yet essential items like rubber brackets and eyedroppers, executives express concern that even minor increases in costs could wipe out their access to the U.S. market. The stakes are further complicated by U.S. demands for access to Thailand's pork industry, triggering resistance from Thai farmers who fear they'll be undercut by massive industrial-scale American producers. If we allow their pork into Thailand, farmers here won't survive, warned one farm owner, Waro Sarapun, illustrating the social and political minefield these trade talks have created. Meanwhile, even where deals have been struck, ambiguity persists. Many Southeast Asian countries, including Indonesia, the Philippines, and Vietnam, remain unclear about the precise terms of their agreements. Indonesia and the Philippines argue they haven't granted the U.S. full import access, while Washington insists they have. Vietnam, for its part, remains tight-lipped, with sources indicating that even the stated tariff rate is in dispute. Adding to the confusion is the issue of transshipment, where goods made with Chinese components are routed through third countries to avoid direct U.S. tariffs. The Trump administration has vowed to double tariff rates on such products, but since most manufacturers in the region are tightly interwoven with the Chinese supply chain, enforcing this will be a logistical and diplomatic nightmare. All of this paints a picture of a policy that, while headline-grabbing, is riddled with incomplete frameworks, rushed timelines, and a fundamental lack of clarity. Even within Thailand, manufacturers say they still don't understand what they've agreed to, only that they've been spared the worst for now. And the broader concern is this: if deals lack detailed implementation plans, are they truly deals at all, or merely political theater for global audiences? The uncertainty reverberates beyond Southeast Asia. India, now facing a 25% tariff, finds itself at the center of a geopolitical tug-of-war. Our Mumbai correspondent Archa Shukla reports that Indian exporters are gripped by hesitation, unsure whether to proceed with current orders. The textile sector, seafood, electronics, and pharmaceutical exporters are particularly alarmed, citing the lack of transparency and consistency in how tariffs will be enforced. Trump's recent criticism of India's foreign policy, particularly its continued purchase of Russian oil and military equipment, has added another layer of tension. With speculation mounting that further penalties could be imposed, businesses are left guessing whether these would come as additional tariffs or through other restrictive measures. U.S. lawmakers like Marco Rubio have voiced growing frustration over India's dual alignment with both Washington and Moscow, complicating the path toward a stable trade agreement. While India maintains its right to prioritize national interest, including sourcing cheaper oil wherever possible, the road to a comprehensive trade deal remains fraught. Talks are ongoing, with a U.S. trade delegation expected in mid-August and a tentative deadline set for September. But for now, the 25% tariff stands, and India's export industries are holding their breath. Behind all the numbers and percentages is a deeper question about the direction of U.S. trade policy under Trump's renewed leadership. Are these moves a masterstroke of negotiation that will reset global trade in America's favor, or are they a short-term play that risks long-term damage to the global economy? Trade, after all, has long been a vehicle for global growth, particularly in Asia, where countries like Thailand have built entire economies around seamless, borderless supply chains. Trump's tariff blitz has jolted that foundation, replacing predictability with political brinkmanship. And while some countries may eventually ink deals that stabilize their trade flows, the current climate is one of suspicion, confusion, and scrambled recalibration, with many nations still unsure what exactly they've agreed to, or whether they've agreed to anything at all. The global trade system appears to be in a state of flux, shaped more by headline-grabbing announcements than carefully laid policy frameworks. As the dust settles, the world watches to see whether Trump's aggressive tactics yield real economic wins, or whether they simply fracture alliances and strain the very networks that have driven decades of prosperity. That's all for now. See you in the next video.